Welcome to SHiFT YRC Podcast. It's a podcast developed by young and early career researchers of the Shift Cost Action. My name is Carlos Alves, and I'm here with my colleague Silvia Chiarini. In each episode, we sit down with a special guest from our Shift community to uncover the journey, their challenges, and insights that are shaping the world of research. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Professor Fernanda Rollo. Professor Fernanda Rollo, it's such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining us in this afternoon.
Welcome again, Professor. And so let's start from the very beginning of your journey and your career as a researcher and scholar. So can you tell us a bit more about your academic background and the career journeys you have so far?
Okay, but just let me start with a very, I don't know, effective message to you, because I think that your initiative is incredible. As young career researchers, you are wonderful, and your council is really amazing. So congratulations to you, and thank you very much for that. And for me, it's an honor and a pleasure to be invited and to be a part of this project. And of course, I will do my best. So about myself, okay. So I think that my career has been like a journey of curiosity and a mix of passion for history and defense of the needs of a historically based culture to understand the present and also to envision the future. So it's in a way, it's like it's a kind of crusade in defense of the right to education, training, and for democratization of knowledge and access to knowledge. So for me, it's my if I want to speak for my mission, for my understanding of my mission in science is about it. And of course, as an historian, I always wanted to be an historian. It's very important for me, not only as a scientist, but also as a person, a citizen, and a Portuguese woman. So that's why. And I started at Nova, the university in Lisbon, Nova University of Lisbon, in the Faculty of Science, Social Science and Humanities. And that's where I completed my degrees in contemporary history. I was invited to the States and other countries. I never wanted, because I started in the early 80s, and there was an amazing environment here in Portugal. So as you know, we had a very important revolution that ended the authoritarian regime. So the revolution for freedom and democracy, it was in 75. So, and even of course, in all the scientific fields, but namely in the humanities field, and especially in history, we had a lot to do. So everything was starting with such a commitment, such a social commitment, a political commitment. So I wanted to stay here and to be a part of that. So I started on contemporary history, mostly 20th century history, and my work started in economic history, and also studying the connection and the links and relationship between Portugal and Europe. So I was very interested to understand why did Portugal and why did not Portugal become such a developed country as others, and to understand it, of course, in a political way, economically, socially. So that was my main field of study then. And I wrote a lot of texts about industrial development, economical and social development. But my master thesis and my master dissertation, and my PhD thesis was about the connection and the link and the engagement of Portugal in Marshall Plan. So it was a huge opportunity because it was about understanding the influences and, of course, all the process and all the history of Portugal becoming an European country, and at the same time the challenges of overcoming the effects of the Second World War and all the movement that was, I don't know, designed. So that was my first approach to in a scientific way. I don't know, over the years my research evolved to intersect with other subjects like the history of science, the organization of science in Portugal and Europe, open knowledge, sustainability, the critical role of social science and humanities in addressing global changes. So other fields, other subjects, but always with this idea of trying to understand how history is so essential to not only to understand the present, but also to design the future, to perspective the future, to envision the future. So that was as a researcher, and of course I have the privilege of being a professor and a researcher in this always in these areas. So that's sometimes is a difficult balance to have between teaching, training, and researching. And for the last perhaps 15-20 years, it's getting more difficult for newcomers. But I must confess that perhaps one of the dimensions that has given me the most personal satisfaction is the training of researchers and young researchers. So I believe that in the last 25 years, I have supervised something more than 100 dissertations and theses, but mostly to work with people, to young people, and not only, of course, the supervising thesis is one thing, but we do a lot of work. I like very much to work in teams, and I have also that privilege to have wonderful people to work with. And one of the projects that we are always prosecuting is to work with younger people in high school. And so I think that, I don't know, it's perhaps one of the dimensions that I like very much. But my career also included roles in other dimensions since the very beginning, because some research were connected also with economic history, and so with other institutions, business, but also other kind of institutions, organizations, European organizations, etc. And also included roles in policymaking in one moment, because I started very early organizing and coordinating research teams and research units. As you know, in Portugal, we have research is not only organized in departments or faculties or universities like other countries, but also in research units. So I started very early on that, and trying to organize people, mostly in the field of humanities and social sciences, regarding all the scientific framework. So what was the role of social sciences, what was the role of humanities, and trying to stand for getting positions and good conditions for people in these fields. And later I had active roles in policymaking in different levels, and including as the secretary for science, technology, and higher education. And that was very interesting because, of course, I learned a lot along as a Secretary of State, and of course in other positions, and that was really an important experience that also broadened my perspective on the relationship between research, policy and social transformation. So I think that that's good for my presentation, but perhaps, yeah, the understanding of science is a common good. I think that we have a special mission, not only as scientists, but also as, in my field, as historians. And so.
So it's really an interdisciplinary work and
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And of course, I'm specialized on that, but the interdisciplinary work is very relevant for me. I don't believe that people can stand on their own field specifically. They must, the curiosity and the challenging questions, they call for sometimes for other kind of disciplines, and that's creativity and the ability to answer the scientific curiosity and questions. And for me, that's also what I don't know what interests me, I think that I've always been fascinated by the way of history provides insights into how societies evolve, adapt, overcome challenges. Why are we some communities and some societies are so different from others? That's it. And I had the chance to be part of, as I was mentioning, a period very interesting, very creative, very dynamic in Portugal, and not only in Portugal, all over Europe, when this, and that perhaps was also a transformative moment, was realizing that how interdisciplinary approaches could bridge the gap between understanding the past, addressing pressing contemporary issues, and that's what also fascinates me. So, and recognizing how historical narratives shape policy. Shape policy decisions and societal transformations, even if people don't understand it or are not aware of it, but it does. So
yeah, I totally agree with your view because I come from a cultural background too. So
yeah,
yeah,
and even
seeing history and culture as the beginning of the innovation for people. Yeah.
yeah. And in the last 20 years, we understood that it's not only understanding history or writing history or doing historical research in only on a theoretical way. No, quite on the contrary. We know that we must work in teams, in community, in a very collaborative way if we want to build things different. And if we want to give back to society and connect to society, this kind of collaboration is needed. And the connection between research and action that inspires me, it's essential. Okay, so I think that I was telling you that I believe, and my perspective is to understand history, to understand science as a common good. And of course, my fascination with history is also about it. Okay, so we must get everything back to society, to give it back, and to work with society, and a strong connection and link between society and university and research and action. It's essential, and you are young researchers. Perhaps you don't remember that, but perhaps 20, 25 years ago, the position from university regarding society was so close in so many different aspects. It was not only about opening science or giving more access to knowledge. It's not only about it. It was, I don't know, the behavior of professors, the behavior of universities. So it was so close, and so at the same time, it was not very democratic. So those changings in the last 20 years are very, very important. And regarding history, history is not isn't just about the past. It's a tool to build better futures, and that's it. I don't know.
What a journey, if you allow me to say that. When I hear you, I hear that you speak about one, two moments that indeed seems pivotal in your amazing journey. For instance, the 1974 revolution, or later on when Portugal Portugal getting in the European Union. And this led me to my other question, because indeed a lot of us know that for us to specialize in a specific subject on a specific area, something could happen, something could take us there. So my question is, was there a specific moment or experience, as you a little bit already show us, that spark your interest? For instance, there could be the 1947 revolution, who in a way open horizons to Professor Fernanda, and obviously to other researchers or professors in Portugal or in South Europe.
Yeah, I think that we perhaps I can try to answer that in two different levels. The first one, perhaps, and maybe the most relevant one, is about the political history of Portugal, of course. Okay, and we had some moments. The understanding of the authoritarian regime, of course, the understanding how it changed and remained as a very strong aspect that was a constraint for development, economical development, but mostly, perhaps even more relevant, a societal and cultural development. So yeah, in one moment, the revolution, but at the same time of the revolution, the understanding of the authoritarian regime and the understanding of this diachronic movement, historical movement, since the beginning of the century with the First Republic, so that are for the political history very relevant. At the same time, of course, the relation with the ancient colonies, mostly the Portuguese African countries. So, of course, all the colonial war, the movements, and as you know, the revolution is very connected with that, and all the movements of the independence of countries in Africa is very important, of course, in our history and how we think history in Portugal. And after that, obviously, the old process and movement, as you know, Portugal asked for to enter in the European Commission in the 77. But the treaty was only signed in 85, and Portugal only entered in the European Commission in 86. So that was a very complex process, and it was all about reinventing Portugal. So, and we lived that with a lot of emotion, because it was not discovering democracy, discovering everything, to rebuilding a country, and in peace, and trying to find ways of doing it, and inventing democracy in Portugal was really, really a privilege. And so I was too young, I remember, and I studied that. So that's very interesting. And of course, the Europeanization of Portugal, because Portugal was not in Europe in so many ways. So it was important for Portugal, of course. Personally, as I told you, it was the moment for me as a young researcher. It was the moment for the renewal of the historiography and all the discovery of that. So that there was a very important movement in Portugal, trying to write a lot and research a lot about the Portuguese history on all those fields. And personally, I was engaged in that. And for me personally, after that, I was engaged also in the centennial of the First Republic, and that was also a very important moment in Portugal, because Portugal became a republic in 1910. It was the second country in Europe becoming a republic. The first one, of course, France, and we had Switzerland, but it's different. So Portugal was so progressive with such incredible ideas when it became a republic in 1910. It became an authoritarian regime. So all of this was interesting. And of course, in 2010, we celebrate 100 years of the Republic in Portugal, and I had the luck to be nominated for the commission of the celebrations of the First Republic in Portugal. And I'm evoking this because it was also interesting to understand once again how we need to connect with people, how we need to connect with society, how it's so important to evoke all kind of sciences and all the ecosystem of training, of higher education, and to connect with also to improve and to develop the public history. So and now we are living the 50th anniversary of the revolution in Portugal. And as you know very well, those moments are very important for people and societies in general to think about themselves and to understand their role in the world. At the same time, we faced a very transformative process in Europe, not only Europe, but in the ecosystem and policy in research, and all the design of the framework for research innovation, and also high level of training. And so that for Portugal was a dual opportunity, because it's not only the inside movement, but also how we could be part of that movement. And Portugal was one very well succeeded country regarding the behavior and trying to have some record engaging in the movement of scientific development. We lived very important moments in 20 years ago. We are now facing other movements very interesting collectively in Europe. So I think that I don't know, those were perhaps one of moments, very relevant moments that shaped our science. And of course, in the last 10 years, what we see is the enlargement of challenges, the awareness of that, because it's not only about the existence of challenges, but the awareness of that, not only at national level or European level, but globally, as we know. So everything is changing. I believe that we are living now, and we have that luck. But also, it's very difficult to face perhaps some of the most difficult and challenging moments of our history regarding the societal changes, environmental, of course, but also at political level, as we well know.
Well,
If
yeah,
you want
you
to stop me,
mentioned
I speak a
the
lot, so you need to interrupt me and say that.
No, no worries, because you were actually mentioning what I wanted to dive into deeper in the next question, which is the challenges and innovations in research, and maybe starting from the awareness of the challenges that now young researchers face in their own fields. And so, what do you consider to be some of the biggest challenges in the case of the field of sustainability, transformation, and climate resilience that young researchers should address?
Okay, so young researchers nowadays, they are obliged, it was not their choice, but they are obliged to deal with a lot of questions. And first of all, I think that you have some political frameworks to face. and not only political in a strict understanding, but also in scientific policy and so. So it's difficult for a young researcher nowadays to place himself in all this complex framework of the ecosystems of science and technology. So for me, I don't know if I think that young researchers have a lot of skills and competencies that we didn't have in the past. But at the same time, you must face a system very complex and that carries a past and an heritage very complicated. And even with the impact of the recent pandemic years, so you face times that are very complicated when it seems that everything it's combining in this complex universe of science and technology. Digital revolution, AI, the framework, the political framework, the scientific framework, it's very complicated. And at the same time, you have to face the designated global issues that are both urgent and complex. So it's very difficult. What we ask to young researchers is it's huge, okay? And we put a lot of responsibility in your shoulders, and sometimes it's not fair because it's not at the same level of the opportunities and frameworks that we are providing to young researchers. So that, for me, it's a very complex way, and of course, all of us, we need to do our best to help it. But of course, one major challenge is integrating precisely what we were talking about, the interdisciplinary approaches, while maintaining a strong foundation in a scientific discipline. You need to find a balance. All of us, we need to find a balance on that. And when we say the interdisciplinary approach, it's not only about the field of work or research. It's also about the model, the scientific model, okay? And there are a lot of discussions on that, and I don't know if young researchers are aware of that, but at European level, at least, the discussion, the debate is very interesting and very relevant. What we know is that perhaps the scientific model needs to be reinvented or needs to be adjusted, and we saw a lot of they are not trying, or they are not experiences, they are really alternative models. Think a little bit about the missions, and the missions are connected directly with your question. Societal changes and climate societal the mission was climate change and societal behavior. But look at this proposal of organizing science in this sense of mission, okay? Trying to understand and to answer to the challenges. So when we are talking about interdisciplinary approaches, it has implications on scientific model. It has implications in new universities, in new models of funding science, in new models of organizing training. And I think that sometimes institutions don't provide young researchers with the knowledge about that debate and giving them the space to be a part of that debate. That, for me, it's very important. Additionally, young researchers must navigate the complexities of social engagement and policy influence while addressing urgent global changes. You are very well connected with society. That's a privilege for all of us, Okay, young researchers are facing the immense challenge of addressing global issues that are both urgent and complex, as I said: sustainability, transformation, climate resilience, demand, of course, a lot of talent that you have, creativity, courage, a mindset, a different mindset. So how to do it? Using at the same time the old model and trying to design a new model, but at the same time you have so many difficulties, starting, of course, with precarious positions. So how can you do it? But you are, it's not to say that you are the future, not those words, but the idea that, of course, you are the researchers of the future. And you have young people bring a unique perspective on these issues, marked by a very strong sense of justice. You are committed with that, even in climate. As we know, the activism is very important. You are showing to have a very interesting sense of justice, awareness of human rights, an ability to innovate in ways that previous generations couldn't imagine. So you bring imaginations. So the difficulty for me there is to find the proper ways, provide you the means that you need to introduce your ways of thinking. And at the same time, if you bring such wonderful things and you have wonderful competencies and skills, but at the same time, in so many ways, you are unprepared. And we must realize that. And of course, the political context and the environment contributes to that. So sometimes we see how the same activism is not based in science knowledge, is not based in the social missions. Sometimes it looks like something empty. So you need to balance that. And young researchers have a special role, in my opinion. So the challenges are really substantial, navigating interdisciplinary collaborations while staying rooted in solid academic methods. It's necessary. Engaging with communities and policy makers, but that requires exceptional communication skills and the ability to translate research into meaningful action. And of course, systemic pressures of academia, competition for funding, precarity of positions, expectation to produce immediate results only add to the difficulty. So it's not easy for you, but I think that you have the energy, the creativity, the sense of purpose that young researchers bring to these fields. They are unmatched. And of course, you are able to push boundaries and demanding systemic change, making your own contributions vital to building a much more interesting and more sustainable future. So a lot of changes, yes, and it's not easy, but you can do it.
Yeah,
But you can ask. You must ask more for the old generations, in my understanding.
We are in a time of few difficulties, a few challenges, a few problems that we're gonna face now and you're gonna face in the future, even in the area of science. Independent is not for Portugal, but in a way, I know a lot of young researchers for several countries. I go to some conferences and we speak a lot about these things. And yes, I think that every generation have a lot of problems in their shoulders, like Professor Rollo already told us. And yes, we have a lot of work to do in front of us. But in relation of your own experience, on the experience of Professor Fernanda, what challenge did you face during your career path in academia or in the research?
Okay, first of all, you have that, and you mentioned, for you, the world is global. Okay, so you can navigate through all the countries. You have internet, you have a lot of facilities, even language barriers are being overcome by AI and other tools. So that is a world totally different regarding what we have. So barriers in our academic career, first of all, of course, it was perhaps more easier to get a position, but not so easy. I think that in my generation, I don't know if perhaps I was one of the 5 cases that got positions, universities, etc. The world was too small and too close. The access to knowledge was very difficult. Okay, and living in some countries were much more difficult than others to have that kind of access to knowledge. Not only about the language barriers, but of course the access to books, to libraries, to archives, to laboratories. So that was sometimes and funding to travel to other countries. What is natural for you? And I ask my students and my daughters, etc. You live in a world that is in the scale that you think. You don't have frontiers. We had frontiers. So that was very challenging to try to face that and to go abroad and to study abroad and to make research abroad. I went very young to the States to do some research. It was difficult. It was very difficult to get the fund and support to go there. So that was perhaps one of the first challenge that we had to face. And of course, since I got a position as a researcher, to have fun for the research and conditions to do that research. And when I was invited to be a professor in my university, of course, the question of balancing research, teaching, collaboration, inside, outside, in a moment where everything got more competitive. So, and what we are now facing, trying to be more open and promote open science and fight against monopoly in journals, etc., was being built in my generation. So it was very competitive in a certain way. Now it's still very competitive, but we are trying to find tools to have an alternative way. So that was a huge challenging. And of course, moving between academia and policymaking also presented a steep learning curve but it gave me the chance to see firsthand how research can shape policy and drive societal change. So that was also very challenging for me because as I try to explain to you, even in my field, I started very early to combine my activity as a historian and academic, but also with the outside world, and that was not very common. So, and in a certain way, people did not understand, and they were very suspicious about it. So that was nowadays everyone is looking for that. But when we started to work with business and schools and other institutions, it was not so understand like it is nowadays. Myself, of course, and for my experience, I had also that challenge of combining everything with also my way of trying to contribute to the design of scientific policy in Portugal at different levels and even at European levels. So that was also perhaps a challenge, trying to navigate the transition between academia and policymaking that required adapting even my research focus to address practical societal needs. That was perhaps another challenge that I can manage, is that I can mention, is that one, how to understanding societal challenges in our field, in humanities and in history. Can we adapt our research trying to address those challenges, bigger global challenges? That's very, very interesting.
So, speaking of the challenges that you faced during your really diverse career in terms of disciplines as well, is there a project, a recent project or finding that you're especially proud of or enthusiastic about?
That is a very difficult question. Because I'm really perhaps a little bit more active than I should be, and I have a lot of projects, and I'm very passionate about all of them. So it's a difficult answer for me, but and I don't work alone. I work with a lot of people. So in my research unit, or with colleagues, or with students. So I am very proud of them, and all of my work, of course, is beneficiary for that. But yes, I can recent projects. Okay, so I only mention recent projects. Okay, so I have an ongoing project very relevant about the history of police in Portugal, and connected with other countries, also trying to build an international network. It's important because it has to do with not only to organizing all the archives, etc., but it's also a research field that evokes us and challenges to think about political understanding of police power, behavior of society, authoritarianism, violence, etc. So it's very, and of course, the inheritance of an authoritarian regime. So that's one of the projects important that's ongoing. I have one project ongoing on Mozambique that inspires me a lot in Gorongosa, the Park of Gorongosa. Gorongosa is perhaps the most well-succeeded example of rebuilding, of rewilding in the north of Mozambique. And its success is not only about rewilding, it's about the connection with community, the local community. So this kind of intersection is what inspires me today, nowadays, and one of the topics that I want to work more. Of course, I have a very important project for me in the last 10, 15 years, is a platform, an infrastructure, a program about collecting memories, interviews, memories, oral history, but it's about all the fields of course, all scientific fields. It's a very important program for me. We collected and published, I don't know, more than 1,200 interviews. And it's about people, it's about communities, it's about identity and memory. So it's perhaps it's the most relevant program that I coordinate, and I think it's okay. It's a project of connection with people, affection, confidence, etc. So, and we do it in a very scientific way, of course, with all the methodological tools. So it's and it's very ambitious. The program has more than 15 or 20 projects in itself. So it's one of the programs that I am responsible for that is more important. And of course, for the last 4 years, I'm also working and responsible with other colleagues for a project about the biosphere reserves. Biosphere reserves from UNESCO, as you may know. That's a very special project for me because the meaning of biosphere reserves is like something that I pursue for a lot of time. It's about history, it's about heritage, cultural heritage, it's about natural heritage, it's about biodiversity, it's about communities, it's about everything. And it's very inspiring because the biosphere reserves are like a model, a model for economical development, cultural development, and even a political development. And of course, is a place where things are right when the combination, the harmony between people and other life beings and nature are combined in a very special way. So yes, for me, this project of biosphere reserves is at all the dimensions very, very important. And it's not only about Portugal, it's about the biosphere reserves in Portugal, but also in connection with UNESCO and other biosphere reserves. And of course, SHiFT, the cost action SHiFT, stands out perhaps as a project that I'm particularly proud of. It's been incredible to see how social science and humanity researchers can really contribute new ways of thinking about climate resilience and sustainability. And the SHiFT is not as you know, designed by a lot of people, and its main ideas and its emphasis on critical practice has allowed us to explore interdisciplinary approaches that are both innovative and deeply connected to societal needs. So yes, I am particularly proud of the SHiFT cost action for the scientific approach, for the scientific results, because it leverages critical practice methodologies, and it can foster, of course, transdisciplinarity, dialogue, and actionable pathways for climate resilience, and of course, because SHiFT is a cost action. And I'm really, really proud of being share of a cost action because I think the cost program, the European cost program, is one of the most interesting programs that we have in European Commission or at the level of Europe, and because the values, the principles, it acts like also it provides diplomacy, scientific diplomacy, but it wants to provide networks, it wants to connect people, and it promotes a lot of values. Gender Planet or young researchers or ITC countries are just some aspects of the cost program. So yes, I think that the SHiFT cost action, not only about SHiFT, but because it's a cost action, I'm very proud of it, and at the same time, I'm very proud because we working together. We are being able to provide not only results, but to bring together people from different fields to explore new ways to tackle climate resilience. So it's really exciting to see how social sciences and humanities and arts disciplines can contribute. And it's not only about producing results, it's also about thinking about it. You know that SHiFT already produced one policy brief about the contribution of social sciences and arts and humanities to face climate challenging and questions and sustainability, and provided also two policy briefs that were designed inside SHiFT, but with this idea of contributing to enhance the role of social science and humanities in this scientific field. So yes, that's perhaps one of the projects that I am especially proud of.
I think that is very, very important. You mentioned SHiFT cost action for several reasons. For instance, the SHiFT cost action is a very important project in terms of interdisciplinarity, in terms of the bring together new researchers or young researchers with more experienced researchers. Indeed, it's fundamental. Try to position himself in a way that could be a link between science, society, and, as you say, lately, the policies, the politics could be a very, very important, I believe, a very important project for the future to try to link better this type of fundamental aspects of our society. So if you focus a little bit on your experience at SHiFT Cost Action, I was working in an interdisciplinary environment like SHiFT Cost Action enhance your research capabilities. I'm sorry.
Okay, so SHiFT combines very well and answers very well, and it's a field where I can use the approach that I was trying to prosecute in my scientific experience. So because it's about it, it's all about it. You know that I am part of a research unit in Portugal that combines especially social science and humanities with life sciences. So it's perhaps for some people it's strange how a group of historians and this kind of disciplines are part of a research unit that's about ecology. Okay, the name of our research center is a Center of Functional Ecology. And that's the kind of approach that I was searching for. And that's the kind of approach that brought me to the Biosphere Reserve project. Okay, so for me, SHiFT is even more broader because we have to deal with more disciplines, more people, more different approaches. SHiFT has about 37 members. Okay, so different countries with 300 people trying to collaborate. So it's shown me the power of interdisciplinary collaboration and at the same time the importance of critical practice, because that is one of the main objectives of SHiFT, the critical practice. And of course, by bringing together research from diverse backgrounds, we've been able to tackle complex problems in ways that wouldn't be possible within a single discipline. So it expanded my experience on what's achievable when research is co-created with inclusivity and impact in mind. And SHiFT, of course, has provided a platform, a huge platform to collaborate with diverse disciplines, fostering innovation methodologies that bridge theory and practice. And of course, I learn a lot with people, but a lot. It's been an incredible experience. And of course, it has strengthened my ability to address complex challenges through co-creation, inclusive engagement, to understand the diversity of people and their minds and their contributions. So yeah, I think that it's a privilege for me to have SHiFT because it's at first place an environment for me to learn more things.
And also talking again about your research capabilities, thanks to SHiFT Coast, other than creating the network, so collaborating with other experts, scholars, and academics, can you think about any particular initiative or aspect that SHiFT Coast Action you found especially beneficial in the development of your career?
I think that the opportunity perhaps to be in moments, scientific events or debates that really challenge you, because you have to face different aspects. So you must adapt. You learn new things, and you must enlarge your research scope to that reality. So for me, perhaps it's diversity, because when people and this kind of culture of collaboration and innovation with this diversity, because the diversity of activity of shifts are enormous. We have experiences in arts, in science. Now we are designing new ways of addressing climate change with these new skills. And of course, it's when I say diversity, it's not only about a scientific diversity, it's about the cultural background of people and age. So we combine very well senior researchers with young researchers. We respect gender. We want to pay attention, special attention to ITC countries. It's the mission of cost, and we embrace it in SHiFT action. So I think perhaps, and of course, the emphasis on critical practice is particularly impactful, perhaps, when you ask me about an aspect that I found especially beneficial, because you are inspired, and you have the opportunity to try to adjust your own reality and to use in the study of your own reality and the place to act with experience of people that are so different and projects so different. So perhaps it's the opportunity of collaboration and critical practice, that it's not just about theory, it's also about applying ideas to create real change.
Yes. So, as you mentioned, it's very important to participate in a project like with this dimension. We know exactly, very well as researchers that work in or win national or international projects. It was very important, not only for producing new knowledge, but indeed for even for the career of the researcher that win this type of projects, or even participate as a member in this type of projects, could be indeed very important. And we see that the cost actions, the RCs, the horizons, they are producing a lot of knowledge, and indeed they attract several researchers to present proposals every year. So one of my question is, can you share an example of how this cost action, the SHiFT cost action, was directly impact your research, or even also so important, your career development?
Of course, being share of an action cost is relevant in any kind of curricula. So,
Yes.
yeah, of course. But it's not only about myself. There is an ethos, the network's collaborative ethos of SHiFT and the cost programs that shown me also reinforced the value of involving diverse perspectives in research, especially those for younger scholars and underrepresented voices. So the understanding of the diversity of SHiFT is very important. And when you think about history, and I do a lot of history of the present, that's interesting. And in my case, for instance, I work a lot, as I told you about, and engage in the history of Europe, etc. One of the dimensions that stood out in SHiFT is the richness, of course, of the scientific and cultural diversity among its members. But at the same time, there is a very, very clear awareness of the disparity, asymmetry, and even inequality across the science and technological ecosystems in different countries. The constraints remain striking. Institutional frameworks, resources, infrastructure. You understand that countries are still different, okay? So there is a very understandable contrast, and this is precisely why the guiding principles of cost are so important. They provide a critical framework for fostering collaboration, reducing gaps, ensuring that every participant, regardless of their national context, can contribute. Because it's, in the case of SHiFT, we see it very well. You have a very, very inequality in the position of different countries and different researchers. So that, for me, it's a kind of stimulus, a challenge to think about the recent history and especially the European history. So, and of course, SHiFT expanded my network of collaborators across Europe, and it's not only for me. SHiFT also enriched my approach to mentoring and teaching and enlarged the opportunity for researchers and especially for students that are working in my field or my team or my community. So it's not only about me, it's about the community. So in a certain way, SHiFT also helped me refine how I approach mentoring and teaching, opening the doors, getting opportunities for my students, showing me the value of co-creation, and engaging directly with societal challenges. And there is also a last example. SHiFT, it's a privilege, I don't know, it's an honor, I don't know, but SHiFT have been very well recognized by the cost program. We are very lucky. We have an officer, Estelle Mérieux, incredible. And the cost program invite SHiFT a lot of times to be a part of examples, initiatives, sharing experiences with other cost action. So, of course, for me, it's also a huge opportunity for myself, engaging with other cost programs, with other people, and even at the policymaking level.
So thank you for your insights and for also encouraging to participate and looking into the cost action. So we would like now to look ahead. So what career opportunities do you see emerging in the field of sustainability, transformation, and climate resilience? Also, thanks to the attention brought by the increasing research and development of the areas of study.
What I see is that the opportunities are growing rapidly. Of course, for other science fields, life science fields, etc., and the connection of sustainability with everything and biodiversity, etc. But there is a clear demand for professionals who can connect social sciences, humanities, and natural science to tackle global challenges. But we must, unfortunately, we must prove ourselves. We still must do it. So, of course, we have opportunities, roles in policy advising, community-driven research, interdisciplinary project management. They are incredible, vital. So we have new opportunities in areas like creative approaches to sustainability, digital humanities, using technology to enhance climate resilience. And what we see is that business, political institutions, ONG, any kind of institutions nowadays, they are focused on sustainability. So I don't know if we are totally able or successful showing what can be our contribution. What I see is that we are fighting for that. We know that we must fight at different levels. We must fight, for instance, trying to get some special frameworks, programs, and funding for social science and humanity fields. That, for instance, is one of the aspects that we underline in the policy brief. But at the same time, I see that in so many cases, the invitation to be a part of collaborative projects emerge from the life sciences fields and not from social science and humanity fields. So we need to open more. We need to be more proactive. Of course, we need to keep fighting to have specific funding and programs for social science, humanities, and arts. But we need to explain how can we contribute, what kind of skills, special skills we have to that are needed to face those challenges, and to open to collaborations with other fields. Because what we see sometimes is, okay, so life sciences, everyone who's working in energy, etc., in the facing sustainability and climate change, and they say, okay, so we need the answer of community, we need communities, we need to work with communities. We know in social science that they don't have, and we have specific tools and approach to do it. So they say, okay, the answer is in communities. They don't have the specific tools to address communities and work with them. We do. But sometimes I don't know if we are really in the field to show what kind of skills we have and how can we contribute. So we have a lot of opportunities. I have no doubts about it. I think that even the how we can face the future, the ecological way of understanding, the new fields that are emerging, even in topics like biocultural heritage, even in cultural heritage, a lot of topics and fields and that requires our expertise. So we have a lot of opportunities, but we need also at the same time to use that opportunities to fight for them, to fight for specific funds, but at the same time to publish, to get projects, and especially to work with communities in specific examples and projects to show how can we do it. That's why, for instance, I work a lot with biosphere reserves. They are a live example for that. We cannot have successful biosphere reserves if we don't work together, other sciences and humanities and social sciences and arts, because it's about combining in harmony, and it's feasible and it's possible. So yes, we have a great potential in connecting social science and humanities with environmental sciences. Everyone is trying to work on that field, even banks, even insurance companies, etc. Whether it's policy advising, we are also needed community engagement. So, but we need to prove. Unfortunately, we still need to prove that we have special skills for that.
Yes, as a young researcher, and if you allow me to focus on some of your ideas that your answer, you speak about the link between social sciences, natural sciences, the open more in a way to probably work with more interdisciplinarity, and link it to matters like sustainability, digital humanities. But one of the words that keep on my mind, and probably because I am a young researcher and have a lot to do in my professional life, is the question of cooperation. You speak now about the importance of the cooperation. Now, if we ask for some advices that you can give to young researchers that just starting their careers in this field, cooperation will be one of these ideas, one of these advices.
Absolutely. One of the first of the first recommendations would be that collaboration, cooperation, co-creation, community, trying to build your own community, trying to connect your community with with other communities. Yeah, absolutely. You can't do anything alone. So collaboration and cooperation, it's essential in all the aspects of your job, your ways, your lives, etc. No doubt.
Speaking of collaboration, sorry if I interrupted you.
No, you did not.
Like you've mentioned already, that one of the advantages of also the SHiFT cost action is the possibility to have senior and young researcher collaborate. So what do you think is the role of both of them, young and senior researchers, in shaping policy and practice in sustainability, transformation, and climate resilience?
I think that we need to design activities to promote that kind of connection. Okay, so I think that we have good examples in SHiFT and other programs, combining some roles and responsible roles in conducting some activities, combining senior researchers with young researchers. First of all, you need to have to build your own way. You need to have space and freedom to embrace creativity. You must be courageous. You must stay grounded in your own values. But you need also to learn with the other generations and senior researchers. I think that we should do that, of course, in seminars, in discussing ideas and building projects and activities together. Like this, okay? So, of course, I promoted the Young Research Council. But the question here is not for Young Research Council to work alone. It's not the idea. In my perspective, the idea is to have a very dynamic, as you are, Young Research Council that designs ways, discuss matters, but not working himself enclosed in itself. You should work by yourselves, but at the same time connected with us. That's why I'm trying to do, sometimes I don't say it, but in some conferences, in some activities, I always say, okay, but we need to engage young researchers. It's not a name to put there. No, the activity gains a lot if it combines with young researchers' perspective. So what we need is you must work by yourselves. At the same time, we must find activities to work together. And of course, you need to seek mentoring. And as Carlos was saying, collaborate widely and always connect your research to social needs and always try to use the way that was open by the senior research. We have that responsibility and that obligation. Okay, so you are the bridge for the future, but sometimes we are the bridge to institutions, to society, to other kind of opportunities. So that's my perspective, even trying to open ways for you to have a role more active in policy making and other fields.
Well, then, thank you. That brings us to the end of this episode. So a big thank you to Professor Rollo again for sharing these valuable insights. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to the SHiFT YRC podcast.
May I say something about young researchers? May I still say something? What I learned in my experience and what I think is that we need to follow our own curiosity. And don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. Don't be afraid. Collaborate, communicate, but always keep in mind how your work can make a difference. And not a difference because you have more articles in journals, but please don't forget that knowledge, science is a common good. And our main role and our main mission is to serve the community, the society, the world. And you were asking about the young researchers. Yes, I think that you have a very assertive and a special way of understanding social justice. So fight for it and use us. Use the seniors. Because the seniors are always trying to say, okay, yeah, research, yeah. Okay, use us, please. We must be at your service. Finally, I think it's nothing of this will make sense if you are not true to yourself. And in those days when ethical issues, plagiarism, copying, etc., are so relevant, I think that we must be very honest with our values. So, and you must be true at yourself. And if you do not achieve a good balance, and you was asking me about balance between your personal and personal life, your desires, ambitions, and perhaps the most important idea, to believe that we have that mission and that is closely linked with the agenda of individual happiness and common well-being, you are not complete persons. So I think that a young researcher has the right to be happy. Please don't be slaves of work or research, as sometimes we did. You have a very strong pressure against you because you need to be competitive. You have a very, very unstable positions. But please, a scientist is a person, and science requires integrity, honesty, and social commitment. So, and you must demand that for also the help for that for senior researchers.
Thank you.
For being
Thank you
there.
for your inspiring words as well. This was a very nice closure. And so thank you to our listeners too for tuning in to the SHiFT YRC podcast. We hope you're leaving with new insights, inspiration, and maybe even a spark for your next project. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with your network, and keep an eye out for more episodes. Stay curious, stay connected, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.